Chapter 4 is about the principle of design. In chapter 3, we discuss about elements of art. Elements of art, they were our notes for music. They were our words for sentences and the tools that we were using to create art like color, line, shapes, form, and texture, light, and principle of design. Just again, if we back to the music, we know that in the orchestra everybody has to play the note in the exactly the same time and place that they have the instruction for this. Then this is like a principle that they have to follow, otherwise it's gonna make a chaos. Or if we are talking about the sentences, we are talking about the sentences and grammars. Then the grammar or organization of the word is important, and this is principle of design. Also, we call it composition, and we call it composition just when the artwork is flat, it's two-dimensional, like painting or drawing or photography. And the uh, organization and putting everything in the place that it has to be, it's an important part of the creating art, and we're going to talk about this. So now first we are talking about unity, variety, and balance. When we are looking about the unity means some things that it's the same of the other things. Then we can see similarity, oneness, harmony, and variety when two things or three things or more they are different from each other. In this work of art, the mouth using of the different elements that we can see variety on them, and we're gonna see the unity on this. We're gonna talk about unity and variety together. For example, look at the digit 5. We see the repetition of these three times here. They are look like each other, then it's a unity. But the same times the size is different. Then we see variety on these two. We see the NO or the number and 5, they are very different from each other. But at the same time, because we have the color yellow, golden color on these, they have a similarity to each other. We have a lot of the shapes that they are geometric shapes, it's rectangular shapes or trapezoid in different colors like a gray and like a yellow, and geometric shapes that it's on the red part. And even they are in the different colors, but and we see variety, but because we see that all of the shapes is the same shape, then we see unity between them. Unity, what happens if we have a lot of unity, just unity? The artwork is just a yellow part and the other part is not yellow. We see that some artists, they're just using of the unity. Some of them they have a message, some of them they do it by purpose, but just unity by itself, that you cannot see anything but just one elements and one things, it might make us bored. Then it can be boring. And what if we have just variety? Everything's be different from the other things, and it might again look at the corner of the wall that we have a lot of variety. Then it can bring chaos um, to the artwork. But we always want to see a balance between unity and variety, and sometimes again, because of the purpose that an artist has, we see one of them is more than the other ones. Jacob, Lawrence, when you're looking at this, so what is unity here? The shape of the green um, seeds, then all of them are the same shapes and the same colors. But at the same times, the unit is going with the green of the colors and green that we have next to the, I think it's a towel or some things in the top part next to luggages, and in the bottom part when the man just lie down on the blanket or something, the color of the greens. We see that people all of them in the different poses, but all of them are figures, human figures. Then the same time that we see they are different from each other because all of them are figures, human figures, we have a unity between them too. Color red that we see in the different places, shapes are, we see variety of shapes, but we see unity between colors and the shape of the luggages and more that you can find here. And what about this? So, what's bring unity to this painting? If you're looking at this, we have the reputation of a square in the tiles on the floor. Then it's a unity. It's bring for us the unity and pattern. We have the same shape that it's a rectangular on the ceiling that it was repeated. We have the rectangular shape and square shapes on the windows. On the I think it's a map that we are looking of this on the wall. It's a square shapes. We have square shapes for the painting. Then you see a lot of the square shapes is here to bring a unity to this painting. The same times we have unity for the color of the uh, wood on the ceiling, on the top of chimney, and we have variety of pose that we see, variety between even these rectangular and square shapes. All of them has a variety of the size, variety of the colors. So next element of composition is balance. When we are talking about balance, then we can have the balance like we see in a lot of especially very traditional architecture, that they are symmetrical. Then whatever that you have in right with the same distance you have in the left from the middle of the architecture or a vase or the other things, then or we have the same in the top and the bottom. We have another kind of balance that they don't have exactly the same things happening in the left and right or top and bottom. They are in the different places, but still it's balanced and it's a symmetrical balance. The other kind of balance that we have is a radial balance, and we can see it in the mandalas. We are looking at the first um, example of symmetrical balance. Then you see whatever that we have in the left, we have in the right too. And this is completely symmetrical in the design, and it's a real in the real architecture we see still they kept it very symmetrical. So the other symmetrical balance that we have is work of the one of the work of the Damien Hirst. I just want you guess that what is the material, and I know that most of you think it's a glass, but it's not a glass. It's a real butterfly that he used to create these windows. Yeah, the windows is like you really have the light because of the color of real butterflies that you see. He managed to make the same. This is the whole thing, and it's not in the church. In the gallery and museums that you see. He used of the same butterfly in the left with the same color with the same size in the left and in the right side to make a balanced symmetrical artwork. And but the most of the artwork are not symmetrical balance, they are asymmetrical balance, like that one that you see. We don't have the same things in the left and right. In the left we have a person standing, and you know who is he, and standing. And in the left we have a person that again you know what is the story, but kneeling in the left side. And they make it some kind of a symmetrical balance. Here you see in the background we see the in the left side and right side we don't have the same elements, but artists use of the colors, use of the empty places, use of the light. You see that this light in the top part of the uh, Jesus head, when you're looking of this, the light is gonna give us a balance to make the weight of the Jesus and the light be equal with the with the Mary and all of the colors in the left side. Uh, Again, this is the same story, and we are looking of the asymmetrical balance here, and that you see the difference between symmetrical and asymmetrical. The other example that we have sometimes, you're looking of this as an example of asymmetrical art. I believe if we be in the same place and look at this exactly from the center, it might look like symmetrical, not asymmetrical. But some things that we see here with this angle, for sure it's a asymmetrical art. So next element that we have is an emphasis. And when we want to emphasize on some things, then we're gonna make it maybe with the more bright colors, maybe with more contrast, maybe we make it very larger, maybe we make everything around it more quiet or subordinate the uh, our surrounding of the our focal point. Then we might even put it in the center and show that it's very important. If you're looking at this, the first thing that you see is the mouth. Then this is the focal point. And the first thing that coming to your attention and draw your attention, this is focal point. And we see that around it, the artists make everything more quiet to we see the mouth better. These two areas that you see, the artist emphasize in this area too. Then it's not that we have just one place to emphasize on this. It can't be a different places that we are looking of this. Sometimes artists use of the lines, okay, to show you that what is important. You see that everything's in the background subordinated, but with the line that we have here, we can see that the importance of these two figures that we have in the center. The artist showing using of the fourth line to create, emphasize on these two figures that we have. Next element, we are talking about repetition and rhythm. I'm gonna show you repetition, pattern, and rhythm. Repetition has just one element. then it's a just one element that you see the repeat of these in a very organized way. Then it's a repetition. It's a one element. Nothing is changing. Not the color, not the size, not the height. Nothing gonna change. Pattern, we have a few elements that we can organize them, and we can actually predict that how we're gonna organize them. Always we're gonna have this red circle, after that it's a yellow triangle, after that blue one in the the upside down, and again red circle and two lines that they are uh, green and purple, then we can predict that what is the next element. Then this is important, and they are organized. Rhythm of music, it's going up, coming down. You don't know where it's gonna go up and where it's gonna come down, how much it's gonna come down, and what element you see that they're adding to it. Then you're looking of some elements, again they are the same elements, but they're gonna go up and down and continue with the shape, but sometimes the shapes, the placement of the elements that we have changing. Instead of one blue and one yellow triangle, we see both of the blue are next to each other. So with all of them, when you're looking of this, you know that we are looking of a pattern, because we have more than one elements, and we see that all of them organized in the predictable shape. When we are looking of this one again, it can be a pattern, because we see in each row we see the repetition of one shapes that we have. And it can, if we are looking of the size getting changing in some of them, then we can think about rhythm. But it's mostly pattern. Again, the elements that we have, we see they in the row, they're making a pattern. They just repeat it the same. And for the examples of the, when we are looking at this one, you see that the hands is the same, but you don't know in the rhythm, because it's a rhythm. You see that the shape of the pictures in the hands is changing. Then this is a rhythm that we are looking at this. So cranes. In these cranes, what we see here, do we have repetition or we have rhythm? If you're looking of the bottom part, this is one element, just one element, and this is the legs, and just we see the repeat of them with the almost the same size, the same color, then it's a repetition. But if you're looking of the neck and head, we have more than one elements, and somehow it's going to up and coming down, and up and down. Some of them they are exactly the same, then it's not predictable shapes. Then we have rhythm in the head and necks, and we have repetition in legs and foot. Another example of repetition we see in the work of the Donald Judd here. It's a repetition of the blue squares in the one element. Just we have that you see it's repeated. And this one is a good example for rhythm. Look at the trees that is getting larger, taller, and coming short, smaller, and we see a rhythm of the different shapes on them. And this is a good example of rhythm too. So what is the scale? Scale is the size. A scale is, when we are talking about scale, we are talking about size. And when we are talking about size, we are talking about the large or small or medium size. How we know it's a small or how we know it's a large? We compare it with the original size of the object. For example, if I'm making an elephant and I'm making it 14 inches by 10 inches, then it's a small scale because it's really smaller than the real one. But if I'm making an ant with the same size, then it's gonna be huge ant. Then we are comparing it with the original size of uh, the the object in the nature, and also we can compare it with the size of human body. If you're looking at the scale of the two circles that we have in the left and right sides, you see that both of them are the same size. But the right one looks like larger because we are comparing it with the smaller circles, and the left one it's look like smaller because we are comparing it with the larger ones. Some people, some artists, they're making the art very small to carry a message. For example, when the artist create this small box, he wants to just mention that even North America using up a lot of the resources of South America and Latino countries, they don't care about their problems, and when they're looking of them, it's like a small things for that. Then they make it is very small. It say that you're using of our resources, but our problem is very important for you. We are small for you. Then and sometimes artists make a very large size art. Oldenburg and Brogen, they always making the regular item, the everyday life, a very in the very large proportion scale. I'm sorry that you don't um, see it in that as you don't expect to see them in that scale. And this is the scale is that draw our attention to their art form. The other things that we have, it's after a scale, is proportion. Proportion is the ratio of width and height. Then when we want to create one artwork one ways, we compare the width of this with the height of this. If we have two objects next to each other, two figures next to each other, not only we have to have a ratio between the um, for example, the height of the body with the width of body with the width of the head, shoulders, and compare all of them together. Um, then after that, we have to compare two figures to each other. For example, you cannot make a baby in the realistic style. We can be do it in the contemporary work, but in the realistic, naturalistic style, we cannot make it larger than an adult. So this is the work of Michelangelo Pieta, and this is the first artwork that he created. When you're looking at this, okay, it's a beautiful masterpiece, amazing work, and you think that it's a Michelangelo, everything is great, but proportion is wrong here. And he did it by purpose because he wanted to put the Jesus in the lap of Mary, and for a large person like an a male adult, it's not enough space in the uh, height of a female person. Then he covered it with a lot of the drapery and fabrics, and to make it larger, then you cannot see it that it's very large. It's a genius of the Michelangelo that create enough space on the lap of the Mary, but you and it's even it's out of proportion, you're not gonna notice it. Watch the video that it's here. It's a part of your lesson today. And okay, what about this one? Is it out of proportion or no? I think the head is a little larger, and this is a Pieta too, and you see that the heads are a little larger than it has to be. So, the neck is look like we're gonna talk about this in the discussion. Then I'm not gonna talk about this now. Design. When we are having another elements that I want to talk about this, and it's a contrast. Contrast is two things that they are dislike each other. We are putting them next to each other. The it can be example. This one is an example. As we talk about the green and red, that they are across each other, they are complementary colors. And when we are put them next to each other, we have a very high contrast. Black and white the same. And it's not only between black and white, it's between the straight lines and curved lines that we see the contrast. In this slide, you see the glass that is very smooth, and the floor or the plants in the background that we see rough texture for that. In the bottom part, you see the some kind of the it's not just physical contrast. It can be contrast in meaning. Then we see a baby, and it's look like that a baby and somebody from death. It's a life and death. It's a between war and peace. It's a good and bad, innocent and not and devil. Then the contrast can come with the meaning too. Two other kind of the contrasts that we see here between the small and large, old and young, and we can see contrast between complementary colors here. The last slide, we see slides of the work of Henri Matisse that he created just different stages of his artwork. Then you're seeing the first one, how he wants to show the girl in the middle. First, the girl is in the middle, the body is very light in compared with the dark color of the background, more naturalistic, and he changed it in that way. Then more pattern on the backgrounds, and it's gonna go out of proportion. We don't see the proportion here, but focal points is emphasized, or focal points is over there. Still, when we are looking at this, we see again another step that he had for this painting, and again the change in the angle of the head, we can see it, and in the end, this is the result of the painting, that we see focal point, we see contrast, we see pattern, we see I'm sorry, we see the balance, that it's a symmetrical balance, and we see unity, variety, and more.